At Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform, we bring clarity to how policy shapes real lives across Oklahoma. And this is Unintended Consequences. This podcast is about what happens after decisions are made. Not what is intended, but what actually happens in people's lives and communities. In a state with one of the highest incarceration rates in the country, those outcomes matter. We'll be talking with people who have lived experiences and with leaders and organizations working on the ground in the communities across Oklahoma. Each episode, we'll take a closer look at the patterns, what the data shows, and what it means, and how it connects to stability. Because when we understand the full impact of our decisions, we have an opportunity to build something stronger. I'm Mike Shelton, and welcome to Unintended Consequences. I am the Executive Director for Oklahomans for Criminal Justice, and we are so excited to welcome our guest to Unintended Consequences podcast today, someone that I have walked many a miles with. We have traveled the world together. Most people know who this gentleman is, but for those that do not, you're about to be introduced to one of the greats here in Oklahoma. I want to introduce you to my friend, Jabar Shumate. Jabar, we have walked many a miles together, haven't we?
We have. I like to say we've made it successfully away from the state capitol and on to really great things in the work that we do helping people.
Now, I have so many great memories just across this country at conferences, but we had an opportunity to go to Turkey and see the world and walk in those holy sites over in Turkey, and I can tell you that is probably one of my most memorable moments ever in my life of walking the streets of Ephesus. That was amazing, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. Probably one of not only the most interesting trips, but definitely for what's going on in the world. It gives us, even greater insight, having had those experiences of many of the troubles and conflicts that are going on today.
Absolutely. And but you graduate from University of Oklahoma, bachelor's degree. I'm not sure where you got your master's degree, but
OU as well.
OU as well.
Yeah.
All right. And but you are from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you represented House District. Well, I know your record. I know what your bio is, but why don't you share with the audience about your bio, where you're from, the great Booker T, Washington High School?
Yes. Grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, home to the historic Greenwood district, Black Wall Street. Just honored to have been mentored by so many individuals and famous and individuals known around the world for resilience and for excellence, coming out of North Tulsa, coming out of Black Wall Street, and then having the experience of a lifetime to serve in the Oklahoma State House and Oklahoma State Senate. Really just focused not just on strengthening families and building communities, but really focused on making sure, and I've always still believe today, that we have to continue to provide our children the best education in the world. And so had a chance to do some significant work there. And now in the nonprofit space, it's kind of come full circle. The work that I get to do today focuses on right back where I started in strengthening families and just honored that I get to, along the way, do some work with Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform and connect with you. It's been a blessing.
Man, it's been a blessing. And before we get into what you're doing today, I just got to tell you that I just want to talk about that journey a little bit more that you've been on. And I would like you to speak a couple of those names of those mentors that were so valuable, because I think because I'm a product of amazing mentorship, people that took out time for me. Who are those people in your life?
So You know,
And I don't want you, you know, one thing, and I feel like I've got to preface this that you're not gonna name everybody, so I don't want
the
anybody to be offended, but just a couple of those names.
no, I mean, I always wouldn't have had the opportunity to live out a lifelong dream to serve in the legislature if it wasn't for my predecessors, Maxine Horner, Senator Maxine Horner. I served in her Senate seat after her, and Representative Don Ross. And those were individuals that I don't remember when I did know them. Significant in Tulsa for the wasn't for Don Ross, the story of what happened in on Black Wall Street on Greenwood, the race massacre that really has now become something that people talk about around the world would not have happened
Absolutely.
without Don Ross. So I'm so grateful. But then there are unsung heroes, like individuals like Mr. Fairchild, Robert Fairchild, who was just an individual that uh, a race massacre survivor that when I was a kid, never talked about it, never had a conversation. My connection with him was through church, but he was just good about teaching the values of how you get back up again and how you always should strive for excellence and all of the things that have defined my career. And I think, even later in life, in college, Ambassador Ed Perkins. I've had a chance. We talked about visiting Turkey. It was in college that I got, sort of inspired to travel to many different countries, and I've had a chance to go to China and Africa and Israel. All of those inspired by a gentleman who, Ambassador Ed Perkins, was the first African American after apartheid to actually be ambassador to South Africa.
Mm.
He was only like the second individual, black individual behind Ralph Bunche to be ambassador to the United Nations. And he retired in his retirement years, helped to start at OU the international programs, now College of International Affairs. He started that. And he was every week would sit down with me for lunch and say, hey, you got to get out of not only this country, but you got to get out of the mindset of just the experiences you've had and look through the eyes of people who come from different places. So I could go on and on and on about mentors. I even think today the staff that I work with now today are mentors for me
Absolutely.
because one thing I think you get to a point in life where you learn everybody that is and has touched you, including yourself, Mike, have contributed and helped you advance in some way. And it's just a blessing to be able to realize that now.
Advance.
Yeah.
Some of those experiences are good, some of them are bad, but
Yeah.
but you grow off of them.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Mr. Fairchild talked about always led with striving to be your best.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell me about how that experience in the legislature experience prepared you for to lead the True Dads. And before we get into True Dad, not before we get in, why don't you tell everybody just kind of what True Dads
Yeah.
is and what they do?
Great. True Dads is an evidence-based, federally funded, responsible fatherhood program that is unique because it is one of the few that engages fathers and whoever they're co-parenting with. What we know and what research says is that when a father is connected to the mother of the child or connected to uh, individuals that are in their circle helping them to be a better father, when they know how to communicate better with the individuals helping them strengthen their family, then actually the outcomes are enormous for children. And so True Dads, through helping fathers connect with whoever they're co-parenting with, allows for children who by their fathers may have had some kind of disconnect to be strengthened in a way that their unwanted behaviors go down, their educational experiences and success go up because what research has shown is when we can equip a father with the skills and resources that they need, the family is strengthened in a way that that family sees a greater income and employment. That family sees abilities to navigate all the depressive things that happen to couples and individuals trying to do their best to show up for their kids. And what we know for sure is that when a father is equipped with the right communication skills, not only do they connect better with their children, but they're successful at life.
So, you shared with us that you had the opportunity of serving in the House and the Senate.
Hmm.
Uh, how did those experiences help you get to where you are today by leading True Dads?
Great. Um, so much of my legislative experiences, and I think you could probably speak to this, uh, was really built in and around constituent services and serving communities.
Hmm.
So I've always felt like my role in public office was to strengthen my community and to help strengthen and build healthy families in my community. Um, so the work in the legislature prepared me in many different ways. From a policy perspective, I would say I was fascinated by our educational system and how to improve our educational system. And I remember meeting with individuals that were involved in building private prisons in Oklahoma. And they would often say, we pulled data from schools, the lowest performing schools, and we analyze where are kids reading on the third grade level. And we know that if there is a low or disproportionate rate of kids, and those were often Black and brown kids, not reading on the third grade level, we knew how many prisons to build. Now that was sobering. They were honest about what drives and what focuses in on their industries. I then realized one of the key barriers for kids being successful in school is they got to be in school. So they got to be in homes that prepare them to be in school. And they got to be in school in a way that their unwanted behaviors are not that they come to school ready to learn, meaning that they're not coming to school to be disruptive, but they're coming to school prepared to learn. So if we have healthy families and these children come from healthy families, they come to school ready to learn. And they come to school ready to be equipped in the way that we all wanted them to be equipped to be successful, to live out their goals. When I look at the work of True Dads today, it is the same situation. And that if we can equip Black and brown families with the support that they need to be healthy, because they want to be healthy,
Right.
then their kids then have a greater opportunity to be successful in school in a way that helps them break the cycle in the situations that they're in, whether there's cycles and situations of because of poverty that put them in situations where they live and act and have to function in unhealthy environments, whether they're influenced by people who are unhealthy, whether they're allowed to think critically, that the way to do that is to provide them a home that's safe and stable. And so True Dads really focuses on all areas and all levels in that way, in building and strengthening healthy families, building healthy children, but also breaking out of those outcomes that often keep our community behind, which is kids trapped in low performance schools.
So, tell me, and I know this answer, but I'd like you to tell our listeners, and you kind of spoke to it, why does True Dads, because it's in the name, focus specifically on fathers?
Yeah. Um, so it is really an evidence-based program in that when we look at issues of of situations of trouble for children, it often points to what is the stability of the home. And while we have many programs that focuses on mothers and support for mothers, and uh, very few programs really specifically support on fathers. And we know statistically, an absence of fathers in the home come from a lack of family stability, which is often stemmed out of a lack of communication. So we know if we can stabilize a father in the home, whether they're married to whoever is the mother of their children or not, but they are communicating well, then all of the negative things that we see in families from a income perspective, why do fathers disconnect? They can't and don't have the ability to earn the kind of money they like to earn to be there and show up for their family. So
Mm.
what does our program do? We immediately get a family in and say, where are you? Where are you, father, in your situation of work? Let's get you the kind of workforce development skills. Let's get you the kind of employment opportunities that allow you to level up. When they get employed in the way that they can support their family, they show up. And when they show up, oftentimes those families stay together. Oftentimes, those children are more confident in who and what they are. And then as well, what we see is overall communities are strengthened when families stay together. So that's why we focus on the father.
So this podcast could take so many
Yeah,
turns because it's an emotional conversation
yeah,
for fathers, for mothers. Of course, I've dealt with people. I've watched families and disconnected fathers, and I've watched all of that happen, and where fathers don't want to be disconnected.
yep,
Sometimes it is other situations, and you just talked about it just a second ago, but I just think I want to just focus back on it again. Parenting, relationships, and employment. You
yeah.
talked about income. Why are all three connected?
Well, I start with employment. It is very difficult to parent if you the number one need for a parent is to feel that they can show up for their family and provide. So uh in being able to be gainfully employed, you actually learn to strengthen your responsibilities, showing up to work on time and being responsible, learning to fit in a culture where you get along with other people and you learn to communicate and all of those things, as well as the opportunity to level up and advance and be and see success and improvement in your own skills. Why is that connected to parenting? Those same three things show up. So our program helps fathers and their co-parents understand that there are three decisions you got to make throughout life, from whether or not it's your job to being a good parent. You have to make a decision to what we call decide, don't slide. Make a decision to be responsible and make responsible decisions because your children are watching you and they are going to make their decisions on whether or not to make good and healthy decisions. That means if you have a limited budget and you want immediately to do something that is pleasurable for you, say it's buying a new washing machine, you understand that I need to make the decisions to save and make the right decisions for my household so that I can be responsible and show up and make a healthy decision and not slide. The second thing that is most important that we teach folks is you got to make it safe to connect. At work, you have to make it safe to connect in order to be successful as an employee. At home with your child, you got to make it safe for them to come to you and talk to you and be open to you and have that environment with whoever you're co-parenting with, no matter what the circumstances. You got to create the right environment to make it safe to connect. Those things all connect in the three areas that you talked about. The last thing that is so important, decide, don't slide, make it safe to connect, and then you have to do your part. You have to follow through and do what you say you're going to do. Children recognize when you say, we are going to Disneyland this summer, and I make you a promise that if you go to school and do what you're supposed to do, this summer before school starts again, we're going to Disneyland. Well, if you don't do your part and your word is no good, your word is no good at work. People don't put any emphasis and in belief that you are gonna do what you say you're gonna do or get the job done. In dealing with your co-parent, if you don't do your part and show up, the relationship, no matter what kind of setup it is, won't last and won't be healthy for children. And your children will disengage with you if you don't do your part.
Let's talk about navigating the co-parent.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes, I mean, you just got a difficult co-parent.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what do you share with those? What tools do you give to uh, those fathers that have a difficult co-parent?
So this is why our program is so important. When you come into our program, we have and give you opportunities. Well, part of the program is to attend. You go through 8 different workshops that really help individuals really drill down on those 3 what we call keys. Do your part, decide, don't slide, and make it safe to connect. That's one piece. But then we have a phenomenal set of coaches, um, family support coaches, that we sit down with the father and the co-parent, and they build their own goal plan. So they sit down with us and say, we want to communicate better and do these things better. I want to see all of the things that you would maybe experience in a counseling session. Let's talk out. What do we want to achieve as co-parents to our child? What do we want to be, and where they build it? And when they build that together, it already automatically puts them in a space to start working together. The most significant thing we do in our program is this thing called speaker listener. We teach our participants how to actively listen to one another. If you were to ask a true dash participant, what's the biggest thing that you got out of this program? It's the speaker listener. When we are able to help individuals practice active communication through the speaker listener technique, they are able to break down all of the problems that they've been experiencing, and they function better together. I'll give you a short story. When I had a chance through the ambassadors program to meet a former participant of True Dads.
Hey.
They had come through our program because they were going through a divorce, and a judge said, you got to go through this program. The lady said, we are married today because in True Dads, we learned the speaker listener technique, and that allowed us to talk about some issues in our marriage that we had never talked about. We did get a divorce, but we got remarried after going through the program. And we're here today because you all taught us how to be active listeners. So we specialize in fathers and co-parents that aren't communicating, because when you leave our program, 9 times out of 10, you'll get the tools you need to show up.
And that speaker listener tool doesn't sound like something that you just use in your personal relationship. It sounds like something you can use at work.
Yep.
Just dealing with people.
Yep.
It sounds like it's helpful. I can tell you that I listen to those tools that fathers get, and how I understand how they're beneficial. I have kids, and you watch my kids grow up at the Capitol, and there's nothing. Now my kids are 20 and 18, and so to watch them on the phone all the time, and get them to come out of the room, it's been tough. But what I do know is that it's important to show up and make sure that they know that when you say it, what is it? Decide, don't slide.
Decide, don't slide.
Decide, don't slide. Well, I feel like that's a great point. But showing up for those kids, for the kids, and is just so important. And showing up for the co-parent as well, just so important. Let me ask you, what are some of the biggest misconceptions in society about fathers?
That they don't want to show up for their kids. That they that especially in the communities we represented, that they don't want to work, that they don't want to make a meaningful contribution, and as well, I think that a big misconception about fathers, especially in our program, is that is that they don't really have a role of responsibility. So we help fathers understand you have every sense of responsibility available to you as whoever you identify as your co-parent. They not may not be the same. They may not be the same things, but we want to help you discover, and they're not the same things for the same parenting teams, but we help. But through shared experience with whoever you're co-parenting with, we walk participants through. These are the gaps and places that are identified for you, and we want to help you set your own goals to strengthen yourself in these areas. And I'll tell you, primarily, our society doesn't allow fathers to get the right tools they need to advance themselves economically, because the research says, as well as our program statistics say, when fathers can make a meaningful earning and take care of their family, there is pride in that father. And that father then is able to do all of the other things, because the number one thing we expect from a father is to provide. And the number one thing that we think the fathers don't do in our community especially is provide. So why not give them the tools necessary to discover how to do that?
Right.
That's what we do.
Right. So our listeners may be wondering, well, why is True Dads on a podcast that deals with curbing mass incarceration, getting rid of mass incarceration in the state of Oklahoma? Because so many of those fathers, we lead in incarceration.
Yeah.
We incarcerate men and trying to get them to reconnect with their kids after they might have come out of prison is so important. I'm sure. I know it. I know that to be the fact. How often do we work with fathers who have experienced incarceration or justice system involvement?
So when we talk about those that are justice involved, I would say close to 60% of our participants have had some involvement, because we serve mostly low income communities and the statistics are there. But I also like to say, too, that there is a correlation between individuals, again, that are gainfully employed, connected to their families, and they stay out of the criminal justice system. So what we know for sure is that if a father gets up every day with meaning they're making a meaningful contribution to their children and to those that are helping them, are co-parenting with them, then their likelihood of staying involved in, just like their children, unwanted places, spaces, and behaviors significantly decrease. So we work very closely with program partners like Diversion Hub, program partners that are directly involved with the criminal justice system. We work directly with TEAM. We work directly with many of the organizations and agencies that serve directly those who are justice involved. One, because many of our participants have been referred from those spaces. But two, we, in strengthening families, probably the greatest thing we can do for low-income families, specifically Black and brown families, is give them the tools to stay out of the system. And I like to say we do a great job at that.
For our listening audience, we have Jabar Shumate. He's Senior Program Manager for True Dads, based here in Oklahoma City. Are you all statewide organization?
Based here in Oklahoma City.
Based here in Oklahoma City. And so it's important for me to also share, or you to share, how people get to you? Do they are they? I've heard you talk about referrals from judges. I've heard.
Mhm.
Can you just walk in and say I need some help?
Absolutely. We are a free program that um, you can be referred to us from other partner agencies, or we work very closely with DHS. We've worked very closely with the court systems, but also directly you can go to our website at truedads.org dot org
.com.
dot
True,
com
true,
truedads.com
truedads.com.
truedads.com and fill out a referral piece, and we will follow up and contact you. We are on all social media handles. At Facebook, True Dads is our handle. At Instagram, True Dads is our handle. Um, w- w- we're on the radio. So literally, we try to get as many places because we are direct service. You can come directly to us. Free program, and we incentivize participants. We don't hide away from that. Father and their co-parent can earn up to $250 to go through our program. If you don't have transportation, we will send a ride share, a lift to you and bring you to the program and take you back home. We feed our participants because we know food insecurity is a real deal. So when
Real.
you come to our organization and you come to our workshops, we give you not pizza, but a full meal. Really, we try to take away every barrier to participate in our program as we can. We keep and stay with our program participants for a year, providing them any resource they need. And what we've seen is after 14 years, if you go through our program, no doubt your employment situation will improve wherever you are, or if it will improve. Your communication with whoever you're co-parenting with will improve, and your children are going to see success academically and see the unwanted behaviors that you don't want to see in your children go down.
Well, let me just make sure. I want you to stay right there because I'm just getting wound up on your questions, and so our listening audience might have heard that closing two times because that was the
Mhm.
everything you gave was so important. But I got some more questions
Okay.
about your program, but I wanted to make sure people knew how to get to you and make sure that
Yeah.
people knew, uh, just kind of remind who we're talking to today. But what barriers do justice involved fathers often face when trying to reconnect with their children?
Um, so very interesting. I think justice involved individuals have I'll go back to employment, have the hardest, we may have the most challenging experiences with getting that individual employed in a way that they feel successful to connect. We also th- have to be more mindful when individuals have been justice involved of maybe some of the disconnect that they've had with children if they've been incarcerated for a long time and separated from their child, separated from whoever they're co-parenting with. We may have to work and put more emphasis on building that relationship and communication because there's been the space of disconnect. And then three, there's a stigma on people who have been justice involved
Amen.
that we spend significant time empowering those individuals and giving those individuals the right skills and right mindset to understand that their situation was and is a temporary experience to be learned from. But this is how you take, and we talked about this earlier, all of the experiences you've had and put them into a positive path or a positive plan of action for your life. And so we spend a little bit more time with individuals who are justice involved there. And I have to say, too, if we didn't have such good relationships with partners like Team and Diversion Hub and the other spaces, because where we don't provide every resource, we have such great relationships that whatever a need of an individual who's been justice involved that come to our program faces, we have a partner that can show up and get that individual what they need. And then I got real life staff who've been through experiences and actually been in situations and been justice involved. I think the greatest thing about our program is that you don't feel shame because you're surrounded by individuals who have had shared and like experiences. And so I think that's why people thrive in our program.
What are some of the unintended consequences when fathers are disconnected from their children?
Well, I think some of the unintended consequences is that as we talk about individuals who've been justice involved, they find themselves staying in the system and repeating the experiences that they've had. So we know in the criminal justice system, we have folks who follow fathers and who follow grandfathers in the system. And so we really some of the unintended consequences is when there's a disconnect and we don't break that cycle, we see that cycle repeated, and that's unfortunate. But I think as well, some of the unintended consequences really focus on, from an economic standpoint, poverty and being trapped in poverty brings about a whole host of issues, whether it is finding a path into the criminal justice system, being influenced by the wrong individuals, all of the things that come out of having and being, really trapped in what we call cycles of poverty are real. And so what our program is set up to do, beyond just the name True Dads, is break that cycle of poverty by giving folks the right skills economically to move beyond their circumstances. And then we wrap around individuals with the right kinds of communication skills and connection skills so that we break cycles. We know, and especially in our community, we look back at some of the mistakes, and especially now that we're older, that we think we can recognize in our parents and grandparents, or maybe we often give some reflection to some things that we didn't have. And what I know for sure is my parents and my grandparents did the best they could with what they had access to. And they did the best that they could for me with the resources that they have. What I love about this program is that we are able to give families some of the resources that they maybe didn't get in their own environments, to break that cycle and to start to think in a new way and do things in a way that brings them pride and self-respect. And we do that with them. I tell my team every day, we always have to come in with the mindset that what you do for people, without people, you do to them.
I love
So,
that statement. You
so
you I heard you use that statement a couple of days ago, and I'm going to steal that.
it's
I'll
yours.
give you credit for it the first time, but after that, I'm taking full. I
Yeah.
love that
Yeah.
statement. And I'm gonna ask, if you don't mind, say it again, because it is
Yeah. Yeah.
such a powerful statement.
What you do for people, without them, you do to them. You don't do for them, you do to them.
Explain, just break it down to make sure that people
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
So in essence, if I don't plan with you in the change you want to see in your life, ultimately I end up planning against you, because I want for you what I want for you, not what you want for you. So we have to change. Successful strategies involve an individual saying, this is what I want for my life. Because when they decide it and they make a plan of action, they then take ownership. And the success is actually, that success occurs because they were planned with and not for. And so oftentimes you know, a lot people say, well, how if I'm, you know, standing up and providing resources and doing these things for these people, how could I be against them? Because you disempowered them when you didn't allow them to be the answer to the issues that they face in their life. And when they can be the answers to the issues, they have power. And
Amen.
what we're really doing in your work, in my work, we're building power in people. And the only way you build power in people is they are a part of that effort.
Man, now I know who used that quote. I just feel like we need to give the proper person that
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah.
But it is such.
Yeah.
It's not one of his most popular quotes, and he's got a lot.
Yeah.
But would you share with
So
where
so
that
as,
quote coming
as
from?
I know it, I first heard that from actually a dear friend, individual I worked with in building power in communities from Tulsa named Mr. Greg Robinson. It's not his quote, but he is the one that helped me understand that as we were doing power building efforts in communities in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But Mahatma Gandhi is what I have in my research found that actually created that quote.
It is
Yeah.
such a powerful
Yeah.
quote. I mean, and I gotta put that in my repertoire
Yeah.
of quotes because I heard you use that a couple days ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. But and I appreciate it. I'm going to kind of flip to back to relationships
Yeah.
and co-parenting. One thing I appreciate about True Dads is the intentionality of co-parenting
Hmm.
is part of the framework.
Yeah.
I've had other organizations. I know other organizations. I don't know if there's any uh, effort. Well, I'm sure that there are other efforts, but not as profound as True Dads at that co-parenting piece, and it's so important for the health of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, why is healthy co-parenting so important when parents are no longer together?
So it, it it probably is more profound when individuals aren't necessarily together. Um, Part of disconnect in relationships, because relationships are built on shared goals and shared plans, is an absence of understanding that what we what we have really done together is created a family, a unit, children that will always be connected to the both of us. And so what we really do with participants is help them understand, um, whether you are with the biological mother of your children or not, you are always connected because they will need you throughout their life to be successful, and you will be tied through a life through many many different experiences throughout life. Um, what we do in our program is really help folks take the emphasis off focusing on themselves and their problems individually, and understand we don't want the same things that have happened to us to happen to our children. And when you can take the focus off of you as an individual or what someone else did to you and the success of your child, you've got the first block to build a healthy relationship. And so why it is most important for individuals who are not together, it's even more important because oftentimes the reason you're not together is you lost focus on some of the unique things that you shared to build your life on, and it's your children.
Right.
And so I don't think we've met a participant yet because they show up wanting something better for their children. And most of the times they leave the program understanding, okay, what we do have, whether we're together or not together, is this commitment to see our children and their children have a better life. And without question, it's more needed by individuals who are not together because you don't, if you're at home together, that is probably more reinforced. When you're not at home together, you don't always see that as clearly, but we through our program help you understand that this will always be the prize in the case. And like the couple that I met through the ambassadors program, oftentimes it's been a way to drive people. We don't try to make people get back together again, but oftentimes when they can focus on the real reason that their lives have connected these children, they get back together.
So, and I'm going to try to get through this question, but hopefully you can understand. I'm trying to figure out what success looks like for a person in your program,
Mm-hmm.
and is there an age of a child that says that, or a parent that's involved, a father that's involved in your program, if their child's 16 or something like that, they're too old to be in your.
So
If you can help me fix
Yeah.
that question, make sure that people understand. I was trying to frame it, but
Yeah.
is there a good age? What's success look like?
So great. So our program is really designed for a parenting team that has kids who are 12 years and under. Because evidence shows that our program exists to see better outcomes for children. And our program shows that the greatest impact can happen to children who are 12 and younger. And then I think your original question is what does success look like? Definitely an impact on the trajectory of that child, and their outcomes being better. But the number one thing that we've seen over 2 evaluations now is that a predictor of success is increased income. Couples struggle most, they separate most in and around finances. That is the number one when we talk about couples who've been in a romantic relationship. The number one thing that breaks that family down is issues around finances. So a successful situation for our program is a father and co-parent being gainfully employed and successful in their professional situations so that they can provide for their families. The second, biggest thing that we measure is that their communication, their coercive behavior, their depression as a couple, as a parenting team goes down. So when we can see in them communication go up and their ability to navigate through negative and harsh experiences go up, their unwanted, coercive, destructive communication go down, we know we've been successful. The third thing that I think is most important for many of our for many of our participants is ultimately the father and the child being more connected. Yes, we're a fatherhood program. Why didn't you lead with that first? But we know if the father's economically stable and able to support their child, if they're able to communicate with their co-parent, they're going to have an outstanding relationship with their child. And we can measure what that looks like. And we can measure what are the off effects for their child. And what we've seen is that the children in our program, they achieve better in school. They have lower suspension rates. They have lower behavioral problems. And ultimately, that whole family unit moves out of what we call being trapped in a cycle of poverty.
We just talked about what success looks like, but I know you see a level of dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't even realize that they're dysfunctional.
Yep.
A lot of people have been looking at dysfunction all their life. It's just life. It's just what they grew up around.
Yeah.
How do you reprogram a father that never had their father? How do you provide any type of counseling for the father to reprogram them, so to speak, on what's healthy, what's not?
Yeah, our family support coaches are excellent. We start with what this tool we use called a goal plan. In that goal plan, which is planning with where you want to be, we then get an understanding of where that father, where that co-parent, where have they had the challenges in life, and where have they we allow them to be vulnerable. We get the information necessary. Those family support coaches then start to think about, what resources do we have? What resources do other people have? Because all you can do is give people tools. How do we get you the right tools to break down those things? How do we become the trusted resource for you, that you trust us to be transparent and vulnerable? And we understand where are some of the things that you have not been able to dislodge. And we become equipped to help you through 3 different sessions with family support coaches through our program to work out what you say you want to do, what you want to be, where you want to move from. And we hold your hand step by step, getting you the resources to get those things that you need. Will 3 sessions do that in 3 programs, 3 opportunities to engage do that? No. But after we move beyond these 3 critical sessions to where we build what is a map for a father, then we can begin to, within a year, continue to provide the wraparound resources that they need to be successful. And what we've seen, because we've done research on our programs now, 2 studies, is that a year later, we get those fathers, those co-parents on the right track. And by and large, those individuals have the resources that they need to just move forward in life. But like any other program, our door is always still open. We have folks now, we started in 2014. We have folks now that are alumni of our program, and they keep coming back and they keep telling people, you need to be in True Dads. You need to be in True Dad. Our biggest recruiting source is friends and family of individuals who've been through our program, meaning that they leave our program saying, hey, how do I get more of my friends and my family in this program?
Right. So there are many pillars or pieces to this puzzle of putting families back together, fathers back in their children's lives. What support do children receive through their father going through this program?
So specifically, and a lot of our coaches get to know the entire family. Our program is specifically designed to work first on that father and that co-parent, more than we are drilling down into children and providing them the kinds of things. Our focus is, let's fix your home through your parents, and then study the effects of what happens with the children. But what we do, we work with 200 other partner organizations. So we find out what are the resources that you need in your home for your kids, and we get them those resources. We don't have kids at workshop. We don't primarily have kids in coaching sessions because we're building that unit. But what we do find out through our work with the father and the co-parent, what are your needs in your home? And we have provided clothes and food and all kinds of things that you need in your home. Our program is even equipped to meet emergency needs of your family and your children. So what we want is a trusted relationship with your parents, so your parents can say, my kids need this right now. And we can't do it all, so we work with 200 different other partners to say, hey, we got you. Get them in over here and we'll get this. Or we are in the school systems. We have a partnership with Oklahoma City Public Schools where we're at the schools and we're doing what we can. And that's how we impact children.
So, being an alumni of the legislature, you know how many bills that impact families. We've seen a lot of bills. We've had many debates on the House floor in a legislature about things that would negatively impact family. In your role, what have you learned from working directly with these fathers that policymakers should better understand?
Uh, so interestingly enough, you would think that building strong and healthy families shouldn't be a controversial topic. It's actually a topic that can bring people who are across the aisle from one another together, because we know in building strong and healthy families, um, we 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 have the opportunity to strengthen and build communities, and we directly affect improvement in around uh, cycles of poverty that exist and all of the things that come out of that. But I think the biggest thing that is missed is we don't offer, from a governmental standpoint, um, enough supportive systems. So we have a mindset: if you're conservative, you should be off public assistance, and you should be, uh, doing things on your own. We're teaching our participants to do that strategy, to actually get the skills necessary to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. But you can't do that if you don't have proper childcare. You can't do that if you don't have these wraparound services needed to get yourself out of where you are to where you want to be. So my biggest message to people in the legislature and in government is that we often are so focused on building self-sufficiency in families and in individuals, and you should do this on your own, that we forget that it's a stair step approach. And if I had to go back to the legislature today, I'd be working on how do we continue to support people while they've made a decision to chart out their own path of success. And I think that we can be sometimes short-sighted around that. If I had to give you an example, looking at the new strategies in and around TANF that require certain work requirements. I think about some of the other support services, and now everything is saying you have to have a work component to it. But if you think about work and think about those things, where are the kids going to be? And if we're reducing subsidies around childcare and supportive pieces like that, it's a stair-step process. So I can't get you up the stair if you're constantly taking away and stripping some of my other pieces. So I would say, if I was going back to the legislature, I would be like, give me more things that I can wrap around these families, and don't just think that just because they may not have a job and we're trying to get them a job, that we can strip away support and resources for them, and they're going to be able to still get a job and be successful.
What gives you hope about the next generation of fathers in Oklahoma?
Oh, I am extremely hopeful that we continue to really, and especially with our program, break down a thought around dads, particularly Black and brown fathers, don't want to stand up, that they don't want to provide for their children. I've run a program every day where folks are saying, how can I get the help to be and make the changes necessary to be successful. So I'm hopeful, because I get to work every day and being really influenced by fathers who are saying, I want to be where I need to be so that my child has a better life than I have. That's what I remain hopeful, and it keeps me hopeful about the future. And I think also our programs like ours continue to break down this notion that Black and brown dads don't want to be there.
And I'm gonna wrap up this portion. I do want to ask you: are there any other True Dads like organizations throughout Oklahoma?
So, unfortunately, there are not many like ours that focus on fathers and their co-parents. And there are not many. We're funded on the federal level by Health and Human Services through the Administration for Families and Children. So we are federally funded designated program. We're funded by the state of Oklahoma through DHS.
Mm-hmm.
There are not any that have the kind of funding that we have, unfortunately. There are some smaller nonprofits that do this work, but they just don't have the ability to be as comprehensive as we are. In Tulsa, I think there's Tulsa has the birth, it's Tulsa Birthright Equity, or there's a nonprofit program run by a good friend, Marcus Dennis, in the Tulsa area. OSU, OKC used to have a program, but unfortunately, they lost their federal funding. There was a program in Norman here recently that focused on fathers. They lost their funding. So another concern of the government is that we're seeing an erosion of support for programs like that. But there are some other organizations, I think like Sunbeam and others, that might have some programs that are in a short way tailored for fathers. They're just not comprehensive. And what I say about our program is there really is a need to do this work in a comprehensive way, meaning that you meet the employment needs, you meet the relationship needs, and you also meet the ability and the impact on children. And very few do it the way we do it.
We're going to have another part of this interview, and we're going to be bringing on a participant, but an employee. They went through your program and you all hired them. However, I want you just to kind of wrap up with just how do they get in contact with you? Information about True Dad. So if anybody has information, they can get in contact with True Dads.
Again, our website is really comprehensive. TrueDads.com is the best way. We have a form you can quickly fill out, get in touch with us, and we will be there to meet your needs. Also, follow us on social media, on Instagram under the handle True Dads. Follow us on Facebook under that same handle.
That's great information. And I just want to share with our listening audience, we would like you to like and share this podcast, Unintended Consequences, hosted by Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform. And I'm Mike Shelton. We're going to be coming back here in just a couple minutes with another guest. We have Demetrius Thomas Jr. with True Dads.